Now, what do you get for £42 million? Not a lot, really. Basically, you get safety. My records only go back 16 years, mainly because there was the biggest air smash ever in the 70s. But it works like shipping figures. You draw a line above the Titanic and work up, that sort of thing. We have not had an air traffic control contributed crash in this country in the last 16 years. We still get crashes on takeoff and landing, but that's the pilot's problem. There's nothing to do with me. If he can't get it right for the first and last 3 minutes of the trip, well, it's a pretty poor show, as far as I'm concerned. My job is extremely simple as an air traffic controller. All I have to do is to stop the airplanes banging into each other, and I've won. If they do bang into each other, I've lost. And the only redeeming feature is that if it's a good bang, at the subsequent Board of Inquiry, I'm the only one there. The chance of having, or the reason for having a traffic controller is a little bit hazy, really. The chance of two aeroplanes being at the same place, at the same height, at the same time, is so mathematically remote as to be not worth considering. All you do with air traffic control is to force them down very narrow corridors, thereby increasing the risk of collision, and thereby justifying the job of a controller to keep them apart. In the West, we have joined all the major cities of the world and the major routes, that's across the pond from Europe to the States, with what are called airways. It's a corridor about 25 miles wide. It starts 5,000 feet off the deck and it goes up as far as you and I are concerned forever. There is a top, but don't worry about it. You're not going to get that high anyway. But basically, you cannot fly inside these corridors unless you have prior permission from a ground controller. Therefore, we know all the airplanes in the corridor. Therefore, we can keep them apart. In the Soviet system, they've got, as I say, a slightly different method of working. Let's assume you're flying Moscow-Leningrad. You're given three things: a height, a route, and a speed. If you deviate from any of those three, you're joined by two MiG-21s on each wing, and you land at the nearest available airfield. The passengers will continue by coach, and the crew are never seen again. The day in question was a Friday, and the French have got a super habit, and that is that they go on strike, but they don't tell anybody that they're going on strike. Friday morning, I would pick up the phone and say, "Good morning, Pierre." I don't know if that's what his name, but everybody called him that sort of thing. And I would say, 30 for you. And he would say, hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. I accept them. And I would say, knockout, and throw them over to him, you see. And what he did with them, I didn't care, as long as he didn't turn them around and bring them back. This particular morning, Friday, August, I picked the phone up. I said, "Good morning, Pierre, 30 for you." And he said, "I spit on your aircraft," and put the phone down. Which I thought was a bit strong, actually. I hadn't said anything to him, so I rang him again. I said, "Come on, mess about, just take them." He said, "He's finished today, we are on strike. No aeroplanes, we are not working. Good day, sir," and put the phone down. I said, "That's novel." So I rang the other controller, which was the other name which was etched into the desk, which was the Belgian Air Traffic Control Service, and I rang him and I said, "Good morning, Pierre," because they're all pretty much of a muchness, obviously, over there. And I said, "I got 30 for you." And he said, "I accept them." I said, "Knockout," and threw them all over to him. Now, the lad must have had a brainstorm, actually, because the Belgian Air Traffic Control Service isn't that busy. They have about 3 gliders a year. And to suddenly get jumped by 30 jumbos seemed a good thing to me, actually. But he did a sterling job. And anybody going on their holidays to Spain in August 72, he took them all the way through northern Europe, into Italy, refuelling in Rome, down to the toe of Italy, and back along the Mediterranean to get to Spain. That was the only way you could get there without going through France. Saturday I didn't work, but apparently it was chaotic. Sunday I worked. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. Everything turned left at Dover, which isn't the best way to get to Spain, you can believe me. And by Monday, it was getting a bit thin. So I rang this bloke on Monday morning. I said, "Come on, mess about, 30 for you." And he said, "I accept them." I said, "Knockout, you're back at work." He said, "Affirmative. We came back to work Saturday." It's been very quiet this weekend. Absolutely true, in fact. They went on strike for 23 hours and didn't tell us when they came back.